This is lecture number DR006GS06. This is the sixth of the Mega Genius lectures and the sixth and final lecture of the Genius Formula series. It was recorded on November 15th, 2000. The title of this lecture is More Mega Truths. It is 21 minutes long. Copyright 2000 by Mega Genius. All rights reserved. This lecture is protected by internationally valid copyright. It may not, in whole or in part, be duplicated, transmitted, or otherwise reproduced without the express permission of Mega Genius. Unauthorized translation, importation, or distribution is a violation of applicable laws. Mega Genius is a United States federally registered trademark and service mark. And now, here is Mega Genius.
A conclusion of average intelligence would be, regardless of who you are, or when or where you exist, prince and pauper alike, life is often unfair, unjust, and susceptible to numerous unforeseen difficulties. Life is what happens to you while you are making plans. Here is another mega-truth. All that one experiences depends on one's ability to think for oneself. For example, beauty, it is said, is in the eye of the beholder, but actually it is not. I'll explain. Some people see it here, some there. Many do not see it at all. The dictionary defines rainbow as follows: an arc or circle that exhibits in concentric bands the colors of the spectrum and that is formed opposite the sun by the refraction and reflection of... I don't think that's what a rainbow really is, and I don't think anyone who has ever seen a rainbow thinks that's what it is either. I remember looking down upon a magnificent and circular rainbow in the depths of an ancient volcanic crater one tropical afternoon, and even from that vantage point it did not look like the dictionary definition. Did you see beauty in the birth of a rainbow when you were young? Did you see it in the iridescent sheen of a hummingbird's wings dancing in a sunbeam, in wild flowers that appeared from nowhere in spring, in the heartiness and understanding of a grandparent's laugh? As a child, did you feel it in the murmur of a summer breeze through the pines, the joyful melody of a songbird, a wriggling puppy's determination to lick your hand, those special hugs that meant someone loved you as much as you loved them, the smell of lilacs that reminded you how fragrant life could be, and the glow of moonlight on frosty pumpkins in October? Do you find it today in the bright and freely given smile of an innocent child, in the wondrous aesthetics of music? Do you see it twinkling in the stars high above? Do you remember when you used to find beauty as a child in an afternoon rain, in the diligent search of a honeybee, in the twisting and curling of smoke, in the wings of a dead butterfly, in a year-old bird's nest? Is it there now in the creases of an old person's face? Is it still there, as it used to be? Have you ever seen the beauty of a glass of water, a broken eggshell, a roar of thunder, an argument, a broken heart? Have you ever really looked for beauty in those things? The truth is that we see the beauty that we see, and we do not see the beauty that we do not see. It is not that it isn't there. Did you ever know someone who did not see any beauty in the world? There are many such persons, and the tragedy is not that some are young or that some are old, but simply that they have decided there isn't any beauty anymore for them to see. You have to make the decision that it isn't there before you will not see it. But it is there all along. In fact, beauty is not even hidden. It is everywhere, in everything, all the time. Wherever you consider beauty may exist, you will find it endlessly, unless you decide not to see some of it or any of it anymore. Is beauty in the eye of the beholder? Well, it would appear so, but I think it is not. Beauty is boundless in extent, endless in scope, infinite in intensity, and it is free. Man creates all the beauty that he will ever find within himself. It is not somewhere out there, but right in here. No, beauty is not actually in the eye of the beholder, but in his heart, and that is the real beauty of it all. All that you experience depends on how you think about it. It is you who decide where beauty is and is not. It is you who decide whether you are happy or unhappy, surrounded by friends or lonely, lucky or unlucky. The next time you feel upset or unhappy about something, stop and think back and spot the instant you decided to get upset. It is there. Others can tell you how you should think or what you should feel, but the final decision is yours. It is your life, your thought processes, your decisions, and your considerations. Life may seem good or it may seem bad, but all that one experiences depends on one's ability to think for oneself. Another mega truth is to change your life, change your mind. People continually find themselves in conditions they don't like. Perhaps they are financially impoverished, or their health is impaired, or they are involved in a distressing relationship, or they are lonely or bored or fearful. You would be surprised how often those who are oppressed by such conditions really do not want to escape them. They irrationally see their condition as an aid to their survival. They extract certain enjoyment from being victims. Even though they may continually complain about their misfortune, in an illogical manner, it makes them happy. Such people seldom extract themselves from the unethical condition that they are unknowingly, continuously creating, but quite knowingly, continually complaining about, unless life finally and abruptly gets too difficult. Yet the solution is never more than a consideration away. They simply need to make the decision to do something effective about their finances, investigate a way to improve their health, change their relationship, make a friend, create something exciting, or investigate their fear. One can be cause over his or her life, or the effect of it. It is his or her decision alone. To change your life, change your mind. Another mega truth is the fundamental secret to thinking like a genius is in not thinking like a fool. A fool is someone who is fooled, often frequently. Ralph doesn't look closely. He doesn't see what's really happening. He missed something important. He lost track of time. He failed to notice where he was. Ralph did not read the directions. He was too lazy to look up the definition. He did not watch what he was doing. He was not observant. He looked but did not see. He was not paying attention. He did not notice or look closely. Ralph fails to examine. Ralph bumps into things. He had an automobile accident. He needs more dental work. He did not notice the storm approaching. Ralph does not know what his government is doing. He forgot to set his clocks back. He did not know the postal rate increased. He did not hear the siren. He did not notice the fire. He did not see the Doberman. Ralph fails to expand his attention. Ralph supposes there is enough oil in his car. He guesses his politicians are doing their jobs. He thinks the ache in his arm will probably go away. He doubts his child would be involved with drugs. He thinks the 10-day-old potato salad is still good. Ralph believes hearsay and gossip. He thinks his family's religion has to be right. He supposes his charitable contribution will be used properly. He knows cashiers are good at calculating the correct change. He knows reporters would never broadcast something that was not completely true. Ralph fails to exclude assumptions. Now, Ralph is a magician's fantasy, and a crook's too. The fundamental secret to not thinking like a genius is in not thinking like a fool. The only difference between the fool and the genius is the application of the genius formula. Another megatruth is, those who fail to understand and control their environment are controlled by it. The physical universe is one of almost infinite force. It bows only to wisdom, which is understanding knowledge worth knowing, which is truth. By understanding the physical universe and its relationship to oneself and to others, its force is actually diminished. Just as those who fail to understand others are the effect of that inability to understand, those who fail to understand and control their environment are controlled by it. In the 20 Uncommon Sense series of lectures to follow, we will intelligently review a cross-section of dozens of subjects people often find troublesome. You will find much to agree with, but some deductions will seem odd or particularly alien to what you have been taught, or your beliefs or normal way of thinking. That is to be expected. True geniuses view many things differently than others, and one whose intelligence is too high to be accurately measured views almost everything in an entirely different light, the light of full understanding. No one can suddenly think in a significantly more intelligent manner without changing some of his fundamental convictions, including a few that he holds somewhat dear to his heart. But those few treasured convictions that he believes are true, but in fact are not, are the essence of what continuously prevents him from achieving great understanding. Expect to change, adjust, and fine-tune a few of yours. There is an old saying that is worth repeating. If you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. Similarly, if you always think what you always thought, you'll always know what you've always known. You will not know anything new. Your intelligence will never increase. You cannot do what you always did. You cannot think what you've always thought. If you do, you will not see anything differently. Therefore, your intelligence will not increase. Therefore, you will not understand life any better. Now, what would happen if you changed a couple of your fundamental beliefs? What is the worst that would happen? Well, you would have to make a few other lesser mental adjustments, and your reward would be increased understanding. That sounds like a fantastic deal to me. Thoughts are not heavy and solid like bars of gold. They are just thoughts, light, ethereal, and as changeable as you consider them to be, which is just a consideration itself. Thoughts are not sacred. Wisdom is sacred, and its attainment is certainly worth the changing of a few thoughts when necessary. What a bargain! You must be willing to look at your beliefs from different viewpoints and examine them in the light. Any clearly held idea that is actually based on truth is not going to change much under close inspection. If, though, it is so unstable that it starts wobbling when it is merely looked at, it is certainly not a sound foundation for building your thoughts and living your life, much less for learning to think like a genius. If you had an IQ of perhaps 1,500, you probably would not need these lectures, but I guarantee most of life would look astoundingly different to you. We are marching into battle against ignorance, persistent assumptions, and even ancient trickery. One of mankind's major mistakes has been, and continues to be, his assumption that only simple ignorance lies between him and wisdom, that all he needs is more information. That is both wrong and a perfect example of the fool's path that man has stumbled onto in the absence of the genius formula. Rather, the actual barrier along the pathway is complex trickery, resistive, destructive, and deadly, set in place long ago. Its sole purpose is to prevent you from seeing extensive truth. The solution is simple: the application of the genius formula. Life is not a stage with the magician in the spotlight. Rather, one can easily be fooled again and again without ever knowing that a trick occurred, and that is the most baffling trick of all. The biggest fool is the one who continually fools himself without knowing it. Regardless, it can all be easily avoided and entirely resolved by applying the genius formula. In the process of alleviating some of man's basic ignorance, we will hold roll call on some alleged untouchable tenets, beliefs, and convictions, validating some, questioning others, boldly burying a few. Therefore, the more approachable yours are, the more easily you will begin to think like a genius. If you can listen to these lectures and understand what I am saying and still not attain considerable wisdom, then you are not applying the genius formula effectively at all, and you almost certainly have some vested interest in maintaining one or more convictions that are rooted in utter falseness. When you rendezvous with a statement that you do not agree with, check to ensure that you have heard each word correctly and that you understand its definition. Do not hesitate to look up words in a dictionary. As the philosopher Voltaire said, quote, "If you would argue with me, first define your terms." Unquote. If you are certain you understand each of the words, give the apparent dichotomy extra thought. If your belief and my statement remain out of alignment, look for your assumption that my statement is knocking against. Look hard. Then, as you begin to examine your belief, you will probably realize that it is based on the premise of "Father said," or "Mother taught me," or "Everybody knows," or "Most people believe," or "Somebody who I think is intelligent said," or "I read in the Unquestionable Intellectual Digest," or some such supposition of frail authority. If you still cannot find it, then you have a vested interest in the assumption. What you believe so fervently puts money in your pocket or that of your family. Or you have invested so much money, time, and energy in adopting that belief that it seems too painful to admit that you were mistaken. But that's not really pain. Pain is continuing to live with a major misunderstanding that prevents you from increasing your intelligence, achieving wisdom, and thoroughly understanding and enjoying life. As I said, the failure to apply the genius formula is its own retribution. Also remember, just because a belief helps solve some of your problems and contains some truth does not mean it's completely true. Your old belief may be essentially false. Placebos appear to work about 20% of the time, and they are based on nothing but sugar. Now let's move on to the Uncommon Sense series of lectures. I'm not going to turn our investigation of all the subjects that follow into a tedious analysis. I will not subject you to a myriad of expansive viewpoints, tedious examinations, and excluded assumptions. Instead, we will inspect a few of the results of perfect application of the genius formula and, in the process, discover dozens of megatruths, gems of wisdom sifted from the slough. Now, as I said previously, a conclusion of average intelligence would be this: Regardless of who you are, or when or where you exist, prince and pauper alike, life is often unfair, unjust, and susceptible to numerous unforeseen difficulties. Life is what happens to you while you are making plans. But a conclusion of superior intelligence would be, life can be much easier merely by exerting less effort and thinking more intelligently. Those who think that life is not predictable or fair do not understand all the rules. So then, this concludes the Genius Formula series. I promised to show you how to think exactly like a genius, and I've delivered what I promised. Now it's up to you to care enough about your own life to apply the Genius Formula. Now, in the Uncommon Sense series of lectures, we are going to learn dozens and dozens more of the basic rules of life, the fundamental rules that you can use to make life consistently go right, if you know what they are. By listening to the Uncommon Sense series of lectures, you will.